On the broadcast tonight, a group of South Koreans crosses the inter-Korean border to check out the venue for the much-anticipated reunions of families separated by the Korean War, which are scheduled to start in less than 2 weeks. New textbooks for students in the U.S. state of Virginia could note that the Sea of Japan is also known as the East Sea. We'll tell you why. And ready or not, the Sochi Olympics are now on the global stage. Russian organizers have set out to impress the world with the biggest ever Winter Games. We take a peek at what to expect. This is Early Edition at 6. It is 4 a.m. in Washington, 1 p.m. in Sochi, and 6 on a Friday evening here in Seoul. Welcome to Early Edition at 6. I'm Moon Gun-young.
And I'm Daniel Chen. Thank you for joining us. We begin with the hottest inter-Korean topic.
Right, preparations for the upcoming family reunions for those separated since the Korean War are underway, with a team of South Korean engineers having departed for the reunion site earlier this Friday morning.
But there is no guarantee that there will be no hiccups before the reunion event, currently slated for the third week of February. Our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee starts us off.
With less than 2 weeks left until the reunions for families separated since the Korean War, 64 South Korean officials crossed the border on Friday morning to check the facilities at the reunion site in the north. The engineers will make sure that the electricity and communication lines at the Mount Kumgang resort are up and running well in time for the reunions. Late Thursday night, the two Koreas confirmed that 85 South Koreans and 94 North Koreans will take part in the event. South Korea's Unification Ministry explained that some family members selected last year are unable to make the trip this time, as they have passed away or have fallen sick. Millions of Koreans were separated from their families during the Korean War more than 6 decades ago. Around 70,000 South Koreans, most of whom are now in their 80s, are on a waiting list to see their loved ones one last time. But will the reunions take place from February 20th to the 25th as planned? Just a day after the Koreas agreed to resume the reunions, North Korea called on the South to halt an upcoming annual military drill with the United States and threatened to reconsider the agreement. The reunion dates coincide with Seoul and Washington's Key Resolve exercises, which begin in the last week of February every year. South Korea said that the annual military exercises are purely defensive in nature and reiterated that it would deal with the North's objections to the drills separately from the family reunions. North Korea has a history of pulling the plug on such meetings in the past. Just last September, Pyongyang canceled a round of family reunions just 4 days before the event, disappointing hundreds of people on both sides of the border. If held, it would have been the first reunion event since 2010. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Well, President Park Geun-hye has urged North Korea not to cause any more sorrow for the families separated by the Korean War by canceling an upcoming round of reunions. Now, speaking at the presidential office of Cheongwadae on Friday morning, the president said she was delighted that the North had accepted Seoul's proposal to resume the reunions, but warned that the North could cancel the event or change the schedule abruptly, using the Seoul-Washington joint military drills as an excuse. Now, the Korean leader emphasized that obstacles have appeared whenever there have been good signs in inter-Korean relations in the past, and said the South should remain on full alert for any possible provocations from the North. You can now add U.S. President Barack Obama to the list of people calling for the release of Korean-American Kenneth Bae, who's been detained in North Korea for over a year now. Now, it's the first time a U.S. leader has ever mentioned Bae's situation publicly. Shin Se-min reports.
U.S. President Barack Obama offered a prayer Thursday for the quick and safe release of detained Korean-American Kenneth Bae. Speaking at the National Prayer Breakfast, an annual gathering of lawmakers and numerous faith leaders, Obama said Bae, a Christian missionary sentenced to 15 years of hard labor in North Korea, should be set free, and the U.S. will do everything it can to help him.
His family wants him home, and the United States will continue to do everything in our power to secure his release because Kenneth Bae deserves to be free.
Washington has already offered to send a special envoy to North Korea to secure Bae's release, but Pyongyang hasn't mustered up a response. It was the first time Obama has mentioned Kenneth Bae, and a strong sign the State Department is taking the matter seriously. Bae was arrested in North Korea in November 2012 when he was working in the country as a tourist guide. The North charged him with crimes against the state and attempting to overthrow the regime. At the gathering, Obama also said China should do more to recognize the freedom of religion, calling it essential to the country's national security.
When I meet with Chinese leaders, and we do a lot of business with the Chinese, but I stress that realizing China's potential rests on upholding universal rights, including for Christians and Tibetan Buddhists and Uyghur Muslims.
Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Recent satellite images indicate North Korea is nearly done upgrading its main rocket launch pad and could complete construction by next month or April. Citing an image on its website 38 North, the U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University says an 11th level has been added to the launch pad in Dongchangri at the northwest coast Seohae launch site. The modification would allow for a long-range rocket of up to 50 meters in length, which is larger than the 30-meter Unha-3 rocket that was launched by the North back in 2012. The institute said the Unha-9, a slightly larger model, could be launched once construction is done, but that it will take the North years to build much bigger rockets. The lower house in the U.S. state of Virginia has passed a bill requiring new school textbooks in the state to use both the Korean name East Sea and the Japanese name Sea of Japan for the body of water between the two countries. The state governor's signature is now all the bill needs to take effect as law. Our Hwang Sung-hee has the details.
Starting with the next school year, students in the U.S. state of Virginia will very likely learn that the body of water between Korea and Japan is known not only by the Japanese name Sea of Japan, but also by the Korean name East Sea. The Virginia House of Delegates passed a bill by a wide margin of 81 to 15 on Thursday, requiring that the State Education Board only approve textbooks that use both names. Virginia House District Delegate Mark Kim explained what the bill means for Koreans.
When they opened up the textbooks of their children and they saw that a map that reminds them of that oppression, that reminds them of the invasion, that reminds them of that body of water that was crossed by the Japanese to come and annex that nation for 35 years.
The State House and the Senate, which approved a similar bill late last month, will now send the bill to Governor Terry McAuliffe for him to sign it into law. During his election campaign last year, the governor spoke in favor of the Korean view and has indicated he will sign on the dotted line. The bill will produce a seemingly minor change in school texts, but the Korean government and the large Korean American community in Virginia are hailing the revision as they consider the Japanese name to be a legacy of Japan's imperialistic past. Japan had threatened to suspend investment in Virginia if the state legislature approves the bill.
We have to celebrate the passage of the bill and be proud of our 150,000 Korean Americans that led the victory.
This is the first time such a bill has been passed by a state legislature in the United States. The bill also goes against the State Department's policy of only using one name, in this case the Sea of Japan, largely for the sake of clarity. Korean media outlets are reporting that the bill's passage will give the Korean American community a stronger voice. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, Ssangyong Motor, Korea's fourth largest automaker, may have to reinstate more than 150 workers who were laid off 5 years ago after court here ruled that their dismissal was invalid. The Seoul High Court on Friday ruled in favor of the 153 workers, overturning an earlier ruling after they filed a suit arguing that their dismissal by the company in 2009 was unreasonable because the auto company had overstated its losses, among other things. The auto company plans to appeal the case. Now, in 2009, the company fired about 2,600 workers after it was put under court receivership following the 2008 global financial crisis. Of them, about 460 took leaves of absence without pay, while about 1,900 workers chose to retire and about 160 were dismissed. You may remember Korean tech giant Samsung sealing a deal with Google on patents. Well, the electronics giant has inked another patent cross-licensing deal, this time with Cisco Systems, a worldwide leader in networking. All this in a bid by both tech firms to minimize legal disputes and focus on innovation. Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics has signed a 10-year patent cross-licensing deal with Cisco Systems. The deal comes days after similar agreements between Samsung and Google and another between Cisco and Google. The deals are expected to give the firms more room to innovate without worrying about legal disputes over intellectual property. Samsung went to court 38 times last year for patent disputes, and its legal battle with Apple that spans more than 10 countries is dragging into its third year. Samsung has one of the largest numbers of patents in the world with around 100,000, while Cisco has around 9,700 and Google 50,000. Local media outlets in Korea say Samsung's recent cross-licensing deal will give Samsung and Cisco time to prepare for the latest trend in the tech world, the Internet of Things, in which products ranging from cars to household goods are connected to the Internet or electronic devices. Cisco is one of the leading companies in the Internet of Things. John Chambers, Cisco's chairman and CEO, said last month during his keynote at the Consumer Electronics Show, the Internet of Everything will forever change our daily lives. For businesses, Chambers said it would be a $19 trillion opportunity. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories, foreign currency deposits in Korean banks soared to an all-time high of $49.2 billion last month, thanks to a jump in sales of overseas bonds. That's an increase of about $760 million compared to December, according to Bank of Korea data released Friday. The residents include local citizens, foreigners who have lived in Korea for 6 months or more, and foreign companies. Deposits of U.S. dollars and Chinese yuan saw the biggest hikes. The increase is being attributed in part to government plans announced last June that encourage local banks to secure more foreign currency deposits to stave off external shocks. Korea's shipbuilding industry got off to a smooth start this year, logging the most global orders in January. London-based Clarkson Research Services said Friday that Korean shipbuilders won orders totaling 1.68 million compensated gross tons last month, a jump of more than 115% from the same period last year. The figure represents more than 45% of the total global shipbuilding market. Chinese shipbuilders won the second highest volume of orders at 1.2 million CGTs, or 34% of the global total. The pickup is attributed to Korean shipbuilding companies winning more contracts for larger, more expensive ships such as container vessels and LNG-fueled ships.
Now, later tonight or early tomorrow morning Korea time, the 22nd Olympic Winter Games kick off in the Russian resort city of Sochi. You know, athletes have waited 4 years, some of their lifetime, for their shot at an Olympic medal, and this is their time to shine.
That's right, and for more on what we can expect tonight and throughout the games, we have our Olympics correspondent Song Ji-sun here with us in the studio. So, Ji-sun, there are just a few hours left until the Olympic torch is lit, or the cauldron is lit there in the stadium. What time should we tune in to watch and catch all the excitement?
Now, the clock is important because time means something here. It will start at 8:14 p.m. and 12:14 in Russia in Sochi, the same as this year. Here in Korea, it's 1:14 a.m. on a Saturday morning, so stay awake to watch those games. Now, we have these footages from the rehearsal of the opening ceremony here. And we're expected to see some performances with very extravagant costumes and grandiose music, which are expected to portray the past, present, and future of Russia, with classics like Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake filling in the stadium. Now, although we do not know who will be the last to carry the torch into the stadium, we have the entrance order for the opening ceremony for the 88 countries taking part. Now, Greece will be the first, and host nation Russia will be the last to step in, according to Olympic tradition. Now, Team Korea will be the 60th to enter the Fish Stadium based on the alphabetical order of the Russian language. Now, the flag bearer for Team Korea is the 36-year-old Lee Gyu-hyuk, a 6-time Olympian who is participating in the Olympics for the 4th time this year.
Right, he's just a miracle himself, and we will be talking more about the skater Lee Gyu-hyuk along the way during the Olympics. Now, we've heard that there are some very new sports that could grab the viewers' attention in Sochi this time around. What else is new in Sochi, and how will these games do or differ from the previous ones that we've seen?
We have the most sports in this Olympic Games and also the most expensive games in history. Now, 12 more sports have been added to Olympic Games this year, making a total of 98 medals up for grabs for the athletes. Now, the slopestyle event for freestyle skiing and snowboarding, which is a combination of clearing obstacles like these rails, boxes, and big jumps, will debut at Sochi 12-14, with the qualifying round of the men's snowboarding slopestyle becoming the first event of the Sochi Olympics on Thursday. Now, as you can see, the team event for figure skating is also new in Sochi, and we also have women's ski jumping and the freestyle skiing half pipe, which are also new, and another Korean female athlete will be taking part in that event too.
Well, in sports, winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. I'm just kidding there. It takes a little bit more to make a champion. So tell us a little bit more about those champions in the making for Team Korea.
Now, for our foreign viewers, gold medals is what matters here in Korea, and Team Korea is waiting for a overall 7th overall finish with at least 4 gold medals. But the foreign press is anticipating a better result for Team Korea with at least 5 to 6 gold medals. That's the same result from the Vancouver Games 4 years ago. And these medals are most likely to come from the returning champions from Vancouver. Here we have the Olympic and world champion figure skating legend Kim Yeon-na, who is the favorite to win her 2nd gold at Sochi, as it's hard to see a prominent skater who can rival her triples and the quality of her artistic expression you can see here. And speed skater Lee Sang-hwa has renewed her own world record over the last 4 years, and her fellow Bo Tae-bum is the current world champion in the 500-meter event. Lee Sang-hoo, who is a former short track skater, is after golds in both the 5,000 and 10,000-meter races. The speed skating trio and the short track skaters kick off their races right after this opening weekend, so be sure to catch these games, as the first medal from Team Korea may come from these skaters. And just a few days before the closing ceremony, Kim Yeon-na will be getting ready for what's expected to be the finale of her unprecedented skating career. She's hoping to once again top her own world record, performing to her last free skating program, the tango Adios No Nino.
Well, it will be something to watch, especially Kim Yeon-na just, end her figure skating career with a grand finale in Sochi. Well, Ji-sun, thank you so much for the Olympic preview, and we will have you in the studio for every day all of next week as we get along with the Olympics.
Right, I'll get you all the details and results every day.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with heroes and experts to help you understand the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best with Moon Gun-young and Daniel Che on Early Edition at 6.
Now, shifting gears to the economy, Korean import prices rose by 2 points. When Typhoon Haiyan swept through the Philippines last year, killing more than 6,000 people and leaving millions more displaced, the Korean government wasted no time lending a helping hand. Hundreds of engineers and military personnel from Korea were dispatched to the hardest hit areas, and their mission continues to this day. Our Kim Hyun-bin follows us this report from Tacloban.
The Philippines were slammed by one of the deadliest storms in recent history, Typhoon Haiyan, in November of last year. The storm destroyed practically everything in its path and killed thousands of people. 3 months have passed since that terrible day, but ships remain eerily abandoned on land, and thousands of homes that once made a thriving community sit empty and uninhabitable. But as the saying goes, through darkness comes light, and through fear comes hope. And a military unit from Korea is working day and night to help this region and its residents get back to something approaching normality. Scores of Korean military engineers and medics are based here in Tacloban, a city decimated by Haiyan, under the mission code name Operation Arirang Angels. Their goal is to rebuild basic infrastructure, no easy task in an area akin to a post-apocalyptic nightmare. The Arirang unit was sent to help people in desperate need, but also to repay an old debt.
We came here to pay back for the sacrifices made by the Philippine troops that fought and shed blood for our freedom during the Korean War.
Despite the sheer scale of the task ahead, it's unfortunate that this team are the only foreign troops lending a hand in the area at this time.
Many forces came for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then left. But the commitment of the government of the Republic of Korea for 1 year is really unprecedented, and everybody in the world is going to look towards this involvement as a model case for the future.
From schools to hospitals, Korean and Filipino engineers are working in sync, and it seems there's nothing they can't fix. But these are just the first steps. The people of the city have expressed high hopes about what this unit can achieve over the duration of their assignment here. This newly rebuilt elementary school was the work of the Arirang unit. By the year's end, the unit plans to build 50 schools in this area. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News, Pelosa.
Let's shift gears to the realm of music. The New York Philharmonic Orchestra is launching its 2-week tour of Asia with 2 concerts in Seoul, its first appearance in Korea in 5 years. Our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won got a sneak peek of the concerts.
It's the oldest symphony orchestra in the United States and one of the oldest in the world. And this year, the New York Philharmonic Orchestra is kicking off a 2-week tour of Asia in Seoul. The orchestra has 2 concerts in Korea with a diverse repertoire that includes 18th and 19th century masterpieces by Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and music by American composers like Gershwin and Bernstein. This is the orchestra's 11th visit to Korea since its first in 1978, and the second under its current music director Alan Gilbert, the first native New Yorker to hold a post since 2009. Gilbert said he enjoyed the last visit to Seoul as he felt a strong musical connection with Korean audiences.
What I've felt here when I've played concerts in the past is this kind of energetic concentration, which is really what you look for. It's just a culture that obviously values music very, very much, and you can sense that when you're here, and as musicians, we love that.
25-year-old rising Korean pianist Da Sol made his New York Philharmonic debut with Beethoven's Piano Concerto No. 3.
For soloists like myself, it is such an opportunity to perform with such a great orchestra, and I'm very aware that it's an opportunity that doesn't come to everyone. I'm very honored and thankful to everyone who helped me to be here.
The orchestra will continue its Asian tour with concerts in 4 cities in Japan, including Tokyo and Osaka. The tour wraps up in Taipei, Taiwan on the 19th. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Let's get a check on the weather conditions with our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle, the start of the 2014 Olympics is nearly here, and the weather, I'm sure, will be a huge factor there. How are things looking like in Sochi?
It doesn't appear that the weather will be an issue because the 10-day trend for Sochi is looking good for now.
Well, I'm sure that's a relief for all the athletes. How about here in Korea? What can we expect this weekend?
We can expect nationwide rain or even snow depending on the region starting later tonight. We can also expect on and off snow in the central region tomorrow evening through Sunday morning. So for those of you who are on the roads, please be careful. Now going over to the readings, the temperatures are now mostly above 0 degrees and looks to stay that way. Seoul will start off the morning at 0 degrees and reach 5 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will peak at 6 and 7 degrees respectively. Now down on Jeju Island, we can expect morning showers. Daejeon at 5, while Dokdo hits 1, and Mount Kumgang tops out at -7. Well, that's it for now. I'm Michelle Park, and back to you guys.
Well, that's our accepted news for this week from us. Thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Che.
And I'm Eun Kwon-young. Thank you as always for being here with us. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here, same time Monday evening. Good night.